100%. There you go.
It's pretty good.
All right. Well, good.
Told you.
Told you. I do like, though, if Poundcake really doesn't know about something, that won't slow him down one bit. I do like that.
But he seems to know about it.
I know, but what I'm saying is, like, if he will go full speed ahead on something he does know and something he doesn't know. And then it's left to us to figure out which side of the coin he's on. And that requires a lot of work.
I think it's a
Work
difference
that I'm
between
largely unwilling to do.
things he thinks he knows. Because I know if we talk to him
Well,
about
there's things
football,
we all think we
right?
know,
But I'm
but,
saying,
yeah.
like, if we try to talk to him about football, he's just like, nah, I'm not going to even try to pretend like I know that. But if it's something like the way celebrities handle their business, like where there's no way to really know because it's so subjective, he acts like he's got it all figured out based on a few things that he's heard.
Listen, these are things that may come in handy for him down the road. Certainly don't want to diminish. There's, a little information can be a dangerous thing, but listen, the more you know, right? They used to say that in commercials. You might recall those as a kid. A young man named Will Smith would come on TV and tell you about the more you know. Hey, man, don't go hitting people. I remember Will Smith. He used to call himself the freshest of princes. And he had a show, and he'd say, hey, man, don't hit people. That's not cool, or whatever. And it was the more you know not to hit people. And he, then later on, of course, Will Smith would grow up to be William Smith, and he would punch a grown man on live television.
It was a smack.
Is that okay?
Yeah. Just kidding.
Hey, are you? I don't know. Cavaliers, your Cleveland Cavaliers will play the Atlanta Hawks. Tomorrow night, the Hawks beat the Charlotte Hornets for their game. Does that mean the Hornets go to play somebody else, or they're out?
The Hornets are done.
Done, okay.
They are done. Hornets are done, and the Spurs, I believe, are done.
Okay. So the Cavs will play tomorrow night on WTAM, and your Guardians home opener against the San Francisco Giants will be here on WMMS. First pitch at 7:10. We, of course, will be doing our show live downtown starting at 2 o'clock at Pizza 216, which is right there on Euclid Avenue. And so if you're looking to pregame, come by and say hi. I'll have some tickets for the home opener as well, which is, as you know, sold out. So Cavs will play at home. It's going to be pooping downtown tomorrow night, boy.
Pooping?
It's going to be pooping.
I think you have a little typo there.
Oh, is that okay? Are you sure it's not going to be pooping downtown tomorrow night?
I mean, for some
It
people,
might.
I saw their tweet.
there's going
Okay.
to be some people that have, maybe that Jägermeister slushy. They
All
might
right.
be pooping.
The Jaeger slushies there at Progressive Field at the Prague.
Going to be pooping.
You know, it occurred to me, it's too bad that our former coworker Geraldo Rivera is no longer on the air down the hall at WTAM, because I forgot he did that Celebrity Apprentice with Gilbert Gottfried. He probably would have had a whole slew of anecdotes. Him hanging out with Gilbert. Because everybody's now digging up like their Gilbert clips. Mm-hmm. You know, he was part of the roast of Hugh Hefner on Comedy Central, which was hosted then by a fat Jimmy Kimmel. And it was right after 9/11. And of course, Gilbert, true to form, went right in on the 9/11 jokes. And, he didn't believe in the concept of too soon or too far. And I guess it worked out.
Jimmy Kimmel used to be fat.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, he's lost a lot of weight. Yeah. Wow. Back in the Man Show days and in the early days of Jimmy
I mean,
Kimmel
he wasn't
Live.
like a big fat, so he was just chubby.
Yeah, no, he just had more on him. He had some baby fat.
He was a chubby guy.
Yep.
Whatever happened to the other guy that was on the Man Show?
Adam Carolla?
Alan, yeah. He does a
He's
radio
out
show.
there.
Does a podcast.
Does a very popular podcast, and tours doing stand-up. He's just not as mainstream.
He's been on
But
this show a handful of times.
He's like more right-leaning and stuff like that.
Well, with all the shows that they've revamped, how come they have never thought about that? Just because it's so...
Because it's
Show.
2022.
There's 0% chance that anybody would pick that up.
Right.
Like, you go back and watch some of those segments from
Yeah, it was
back
called
in
the
day.
Juggies.
There was the Juggies.
Girls
and then,
jumping on trampolines.
Yeah. Then just some of the sketches that they did where they have the kid go around and talk crap to people while he's trying to sell beer on the street. Oh,
But I'm
they're
saying
very problematic.
I never
Not even
actually
on
saw the
streaming?
Man Show. I saw like I know the ended with whatever I watched on Comedy Central at the time was on right after the Man Show. So I would always see
I think it was
Girls on
Daily Show. Yeah.
Oh, is that what it was? Yeah. So I would see Girls on Trampolines, but I never saw an episode of the Man Show. I know it was very popular.
I remember I watched it as a kid just because it was on like after South Park, and I shouldn't have even been watching South Park, but of course.
You went all in as a kid. You're like Man Show.
Well, that was
Because you were hoping there'd be men on there.
No.
Jimmy Kimmel doing the Karl Malone blackfaces from the Man Show, I believe.
Right.
Well, I'm just saying as a kid, I didn't know what the Man Show was. I just remember it coming on after South Park, and I watched it by accident. And then I was like, oh, Juggies. So I knew it was something that I wasn't supposed to watch. Therefore, it made me watch. So it wasn't like it held any value to me. I just liked doing things I wasn't supposed to do. Value.
And you still watch South Park.
Yeah, well, it's not appointment watching for me, but when I'm streaming through Hulu, if it's on, I'll pop it on.
Yeah, I think they're supposed to deliver another 3 movies and 8 seasons. And
I was gonna say, you think that show will ever go off the air?
Not until one of them dies. And then maybe not even
I mean,
then.
as long as they want to keep making it, they moved them all over to Paramount Plus and signed a huge deal. 20 years in, those guys are getting 9 figures.
The Man Show boy.
Huh?
The Man Show boy. So he was this kid that he'd have an earpiece in and then would just be very like rude to women.
Crass.
Very crass. And it's funny because he's a kid.
He's a kid. He's
Yeah,
not supposed to be talking
he's
like
not
that
talking
to adults
that
and grown-ups.
to a lady.
Show some respect.
Yeah. But I remember thinking it was very funny as a younger man. It doesn't quite hold up. I mean, it's definitely not okay by today's standards.
Well, I think the premise is funny. You couldn't do what he did, but I mean, if you had a kid asking people questions.
Adult
Yeah.
questions.
Well, yeah, I guess.
Well, that was the whole premise of
Didn't like the Juggies.
the Andy Milonakis show. Was that he was 30 but looked like he was 14, and he would go out and everybody would think he was a child. So he'd act.
Was that the case? I thought it was an urban legend that he was a grown man. I thought he was a kid with a show, and people were like, he's a guy.
No, he has a.
I thought they never figured that
disease.
out.
I'm
Is that
pretty
true?
sure
I thought he
does.
was like in his 20s, like late 20s when he made that show, but everybody thought he was like 14.
Oh, okay.
I could be wrong though. But I was also
He's
like
46 years old.
Oh,
Yeah, I was going to say I was like 14 watching it,
And it was
maybe even
hilarious,
younger
yeah.
than that. And I was, you know how many
so the
times
hook was that he just looked like a kid.
he looks like a kid, so
Oh,
he
okay.
goes out. He's actually 27 years old, and he goes out on the street and he's telling these people. One of my drunk antics that I loved doing was racing people, and it came from that show because Andy Milonakis would just go up to
You
random
mean foot race?
foot race. He would go up to random people on the street and be like, "But I can beat you in a foot race," and then he would just take off. And Drunk Mayor held on to that for 15 years, and then started doing that in bars.
Andy Milonakis had a growth hormone deficiency, which almost leads me to believe that could have just as easily been a Bill Squire show.
Oh, yeah. That
Bill
very-
Squire looked
very
like a
easily
little
could have
boy.
been.
To hear you tell it, you look like a little boy for a long time.
I did. I mean, I did not hit my growth spurt till I was 16, and it was because I had to take growth hormone to do it.
Think about that.
Yeah.
That could have been you.
You could have been rich and famous.
Yeah, I'll take being 6 feet tall and okay.
The one sketch that I also love from that show, he would have strangers come by. I don't know if it was staged or not, but these people were great actors if it was. And he'd be like, "My John Stamos is stuck in a tree," and John Stamos would be up there like, "Help!
Yeah.
Help, I can't get down." Just really dumb stuff like that. He would have delivery people come and put peanut butter on his face, like he ordered Chinese food, and he was like, "Hey man," he was like sitting strapped to a chair. He's like, "Yeah, you can leave the food over there. The money's on the table. Just one more thing, can you rub peanut butter on my face?"
That was in the wake of Tom Green, right? Like when
Yeah.
there was kind of an
Yeah.
appetite for that kind of guerrilla TV, and
Yeah, that, and then that led into, what was it? It was, oh man, it was a really weird show, and I believe it was on MTV or Adult Swim, but I can't
What did
remember.
they do?
It was a kid's show, but it wasn't really a kid's show. I can't remember what it's
Real
called.
actors, cartoon.
They have like Muppets basically, so it looked like it would be like Sesame Street, but there'd be like a little kid talking to a kid about. There's a very popular gif where the kid's screaming, "That's racist!" and it's like a little black kid yelling. Oh man, what was that show called?
I don't know what that one is.
It was a really weird show though.
don't know. Alan, speaking of pooping downtown, somebody took a dump right across the street from your new offices last night. Yeah, listen, as we languish in between, not even in between locations, we're here doing this thing, and most of the office people are downtown in the new location. I fully expect that whenever we get in there, we're going to be treated to a lot of public defecation.
Are you at all regretting taking the street side studio?
Oh, I didn't take anything.
Oh.
That's where I'm being put. Because
I didn't
this
know.
is well, they said when they first came to me, because Rover's going to have he has his whole own thing, right? He has to create his. I thought his studio was going to be in the back. It's actually like in the middle of the wall of studios or whatever. And they came to me and they said, "Do you have a problem being? We'd really like your show as like a prominent show in that street side studio." And I initially said, "Yeah, cool," because I grew up. WGN Radio in Chicago had a street side studio. And so if you're walking along Michigan Avenue, you could see these people in the studio. It looked really, really cool. And so I said, sure. But it wasn't like they were, if I had said no, I guess they would have figured something out. But the more I think about it, the less enthralled I am. I mean, because I don't,
How long?
That's a lot of distraction.
That's what I was going to say. How long before we are all immune to public defecation?
Well, day one for me, because I'm going to be doing my show and looking forward. I'm not, thank God. Listen, the silver lining is that Poundcake's not going to be in there with us. He's going to be in a room by himself.
It's going to be
I
hard.
think that's the blessing, because he would be like squirrel every time somebody, did anything in front of that window.
If someone poops in front of the window, I'm going to have to look. Right?
You want to see a human
I don't
poop
want to.
in front.
But if someone's walking by and looks at you and then just drops trow, you're like, oh, you can't just be like.
Well, you absolutely can, because let me ask you this: have you've surely seen a human poop in front of you on
did.
the street?
San Francisco.
San Francisco.
Or no, I'm sorry,
sure.
San Diego. No, San Francisco. Yeah, that was
it's a
the
rite
first
of
time I saw
passage
it.
in San Francisco. Yeah,
A lot of homeless people there. That's the first
that's
time
an
I saw
understatement. So yeah, if you've seen that, you really only need to see it one time, and you also kind of get a couple of seconds of prep, because they're not going to do it through their pants. There's no titillation in that, so they're going to start to drop trow, and that's when you go, okay.
It's like a
Don't
train
care.
wreck, because I'm like, what are they about? They're doing it. They're doing it right there.
They're doing it right
now.
now.
Oh my God, he's pooping. And then once I realized, that guy's pooping, that's when I turned away like, what did I just witness? But I will tell you, the very next thing I did was...
You want to see a person poop.
No, the
front
very
of
next thing I did was look up the house on Zillow that he pooped in front of, and it was like an $8 million house. And I was like, I'd be so mad.
He's really sticking it to the man.
Right.
How do you like that?
Little civil disobedience. Wonder shows.
Bill's talking about wonder shows and people
wonder
are telling-
shows.
yeah.
Yes.
It'd be an $8 million house and literally have like 2 bedrooms and like a living room in
Yeah.
San Francisco. It's nothing special.
It was
at all.
crazy out
No
there.
yard. Like you walk
And
back.
And you have people pooping
I was
in
like,
front of your house.
human poop on your doorstep.
Yep.
Yeah, but that can happen anywhere unless you live in a gated community. So that really
It
doesn't.
can
shock me.
happen anywhere, but it doesn't happen in a lot of very affluent neighborhoods. In most affluent neighborhoods, you are not worried about people walking around pooping.
I just don't understand why someone. I understand the hustle and bustle of a big city, but to pay these astronomical amounts, like for a house that
Because it's not astronomical to some people.
true. Okay, well then, yeah, it's something I don't understand because I don't have to deal with
For some people, paying $8 million for a house is just like.
But
Okay.
$8 million is still $8 million. It doesn't matter whether you have it or not.
But it's still like to some people they go, but this is the location I want to
worth
be
it.
in, so it's worth it to them. It's not like they're spending all the money they have.
Right.
They got a lot more money. They'll be fine.
yeah, I just.
That's a $200,000 house to them.
But that just surprises me that there's that many rich people in this country. I'm like, how do we have poverty when there is every single neighborhood in San Francisco is owned by a millionaire? It's a millionaire. Like, for sure that person has at least $1 million in their bank account. And
Well, it's Silicon Valley. I mean, but there are poor people everywhere, because rich people want to keep their money. They're not walking around giving it to people.
That's why I'll never
Not
be
that,
rich.
and that's not really going to solve any problems either. I mean, not the problems that San Francisco's got. So, but yeah, if you were looking out your window, you just bought yourself a brand new townhouse. Full House was set in San Francisco, I think. I didn't watch that show, but I remember the intro to that show, and those kinds of row houses there in a very recognizable part of San Francisco. And those were very, very expensive houses, even back then, right? Mm-hmm. So if you had a guy out in front of your place taking a dump, you take the rough with the smooth.
I guess.
You go, listen, beats living in Wichita.
Does it?
Yeah, you're out in the Bay Area, baby.
Okay.
Get over to Oakland, have some
cold
fun.
there.
You throw a hoodie on, you're fine.
I was there in October, and it was like the high was only like 60.
Yeah.
Which I know that's different than Ohio, but if you're living in California, you want it to be.
Now, on the subject of homeless people, there's a guy named Frank Nicely, ironic. Senator Frank Nicely. He's part of the Tennessee State Legislature. He represents Strawberry Plains, which is about 20 minutes outside Knoxville. We've got bureau chiefs in the greater Knoxville area. And this guy wanted to give this meeting in session. They were voting on a bill that would essentially criminalize homeless by allowing tickets and fines for unauthorized camping. And this guy took a very, very strange tack on the homeless conversation.
Speaker, I haven't given you all the history lesson in a while, and I want to give you a little history on homelessness. 1910, Hitler decided to live on the streets for a while. So for 2 years, Hitler lived on the streets and practiced his oratory and his body language and how to connect with masses, and then went on to lead a life that got him in the history books. So a lot of these people, it's not a dead end. They can come out of these homeless camps and have a productive life, or in Hitler's case, a very unproductive life. I support this bill.
I support this bill. Listen, let Hitler be your... Boy, these guys love to... They will squeeze Hitler in anything, won't they? Hey, Hitler was homeless. He decided to be homeless. And then he worked on his oratory skills and his engagement of audiences. If he could do it... And then he ended up in the history books. I feel
That's
like you're...
one way to put it.
I feel like you're really glossing over a lot there.
Technically, he did.
Did he just yada, yada, yada the Holocaust?
He did.
He did.
Yada, yada, the Holocaust. And by the way, Hitler had a lot of things. He did not have an unproductive life. I know he was kind of doing a little backpedal there at the end, but Hitler did not have an unproductive life. He was very productive.
Almost too productive.
Very much too productive. From day one, it was too productive. But yeah, boy, these guys, they love going back to Hitler. Because nobody's walking around thinking about Hitler. If you're thinking about history, certainly not around 1910, not around the time of the First World War. You're not thinking about a then unknown Adolf Hitler. These guys love thinking about Hitler. Everything always goes back to Hitler.
It's so scary to be alive back in those times, seeing something like that happen.
What are you talking about? Stuff like that happens all the time.
But
It's happening now in Ukraine.
Okay. Well, yeah.
Just killing people.
But not 6 million.
Yeah.
But
Give 'em
thousands and
time.
thousands,
Trying, yeah.
Give him time. You don't think he wants
Tens
to?
of thousands of
That's the
people that have
goal.
died.
Yeah.
Okay. Just from what I've read, it seemed like it was very scary.
Yeah.
It's always very scary to be alive.
Yeah. I think it would be really, really scary. That's an understatement on par with, and then he got himself in the history books.
So if you want to get in the history books, like what is he even getting at? Be homeless? Or he's saying these people can help themselves and
It's
they're
another
not.
one of these
Bootstraps?
nonsense bootstraps thing. Hitler decided to be homeless. And this is my point. Like, listen, everybody knows like the, golden age of Hitler there, World War II. This guy knows World War I, pre blown up Hitler, right? Hitler's glow up was World War II. This guy's quoting like
He knows his origin story.
Yes. This guy studies Hitler. He loves it.
I am interested in World War II. It was the only part of history that I enjoyed learning about because
Then
it
you
was
should
just
be a 50-year-old dad.
So I don't.
Well, no, just because it was like so unfathomable. Where you're like, how can one guy be this corrupt and
and
then
powerful.
and get so many people to believe him? So actually, when my boyfriend and I started dating, he's like, "Hey, let's watch a documentary." I was like, "Oh, let's watch this Hitler one." And then that's come up more than once that we've watched more than one World War II documentary. And when we were on vacation, they had like this. We were in this whatever consignment shop, and they had artifacts from World War II. And my boyfriend says out loud in a public space, "Look, babe, Nazis! You love Hitler." I was like, "You cannot say that."
my goodness.
We are in the South. You cannot.
You
announce
love Hitler.
That I love Hitler because
Well,
I
actually,
watched
it's
a
not the
couple
South.
documentaries.
In the South.
Yeah, in South.
But
You weren't going to get anybody upset with you there.
I didn't want people to latch on, is what I'm saying.
You'd
I
be
didn't
like,
See, this is just what we have up front. If you really want something good,
what I was
come on
worried.
around back. Let me open up my trunk.
they're gonna open a whole new room. Then I'm like, yo, quiet. I don't love Hitler.
The government trying to get rid of this, but we know there's some special folks out there like us.
I'm not one of you. That's what I'm saying. Just think it's an interesting point in history. That's all. I love Hitler.
You're fascinated by him.
Right.
Okay, I got a break. If you want to text for something, 35192. AlanCoxShow.com for the video. Listen anywhere on the iHeartRadio app.